Hey, everybody, welcome back into another edition of the drbicuspid.com podcast. My name is Kevin here. I'm the editor-in-chief for Dr. Bicuspid. So glad you've joined us, and I'm so glad to bring on a friend of mine and a fellow member of the Speaking Consulting Network, and that is Dr. Martin Mendelson. Dr. Mendelson, how are you today?
I am fantastic on this Friday, the day we're recording. So how bad could I be, right?
Hard not to be, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, but it's funny. Every time I see you, I think you're fantastic. It could be a Wednesday. Fantastic. So that's a really good thing, man. It is. Hey, Dr. Mendelson has just published a book. We're going to talk about that in just a minute, as well as some things that he wants to get out to dentists and dental teams, our listeners, obviously, here at Dr. Bicuspid. Before we dive into that, Dr. Mendelson, kind of introduce yourself to our audience and let's dive in.
Sure. So I feel like I've always been in dentistry. I actually started at 16 years of age in a dental practice, and I never intended to have a life outside clinical dentistry. But about 10 years in, I became medically disabled. I had problems with my hand. And so was actually out of work for about 17 months, which was a pretty traumatic experience because this was 2003. So we weren't so interconnected like we are today. But then was very fortunate, had three main positions outside of clinical that led us here today. Number one, I worked in a dental laboratory. And so I was the liaison between the dentist and lab, handling over 16,000 cases in my tenure. Then went to Vita in North America, oversaw education across North America, where I had a team of over 20 and a budget of over $20 million. And for 13 years, many people have met me at Spear Education. I was a member of the resident faculty for over 13 years. During that tenure, because I was in fact attempting, and I say that purposefully, attempting to coach dentists, I decided I wanted to become a real one. And so I ended up spending quite a number of time garnering certifications in executive and team coaching, facilitation, emotional intelligence, and happiness studies, which was a year-long course of study that actually today is a certified master's, accredited master's course. So I really bring all those experiences together beside the chair, at the chair, in the lab, in corporate, in education, and all the other behavioral stuff to really help people bring themselves forward, particularly dentists, since I know us so well because I am one.
Let me ask you a question. With the behavioral things that you're talking about, how important is that now versus maybe 20 years ago? Is it more important to try to keep our teams together, or is it just a buzzword of the moment?
Yeah, it's incredibly important. And I'll answer it behaviorally, but I'll also answer it business wise. And I'll explain why in a second. But, I think COVID ripped the Band-Aid off of the challenges that we have in dentistry. Everybody, knows that dentistry is a challenging mental and physical profession. The data is pretty scary. We're about 17 times more likely to take our own lives than the general populace. We're about 2.5 times more likely to suffer from anxiety disorder, panic disorder, and depression. And so it's a real problem out there. And then that waterfalls down into leadership. Speaking of leadership, nobody taught us leadership. And so from a business perspective, what I've come to say is this: we need to get out of our own way and stop thinking that what we do is unique. Now, what I mean by that is this: when the patient is reclined and their mouth is open, yes, of course, what we do is unique. But everything that gets them to the chair, saying yes in the chair, getting out of the chair, paying their bill, and making their next appointment isn't. And that's where not only behavioral science comes in, but business and leadership and management. There's so much out there that we can pull from. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, and we don't have to continue to struggle by engaging with the right people that can help us.
So you've just released a book, One
Yep.
Move Makes All the Difference, How
Yeah.
to Discover Your Power and Transform Your Life. Why now? Why this book?
Why now? I think not only going through the experience of COVID, but also literally almost losing myself and my spouse's life in Mexico when we were at a hotel that was, no joke, attacked by a Mexican drug cartel, really pushed me forward to get my message out there. And so this book is not for dentists, period. It's for people. So when I meet people on the street and they say, "What's your book about?" The answer is, my book's all about how it can help you get yourself out of your own way by understanding your thoughts a little bit differently through my team framework. That is an acronym that stands for thoughts lead to emotions that guide actions that manifest the results of our lives. So it had a lot to do with life experience. I'll just say it that way.
Nothing wrong with that at all. And you mentioned that teamwork, and I know you devoted quite a bit of the book to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I came upon a quote a number of years ago when I was reading Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It's actually a quote attributed to Dr. Frankl about the book, stated by Stephen Covey, but that's another story. But that quote that's attributed to Dr. Frankl has become the cornerstone of my work. And so the quote is, between stimulus and response, there's a space. In this space lies our freedom to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. And so Dr. Frankl, if you're not familiar with him, was a Holocaust survivor who was interned at 37 years of age after he was already a neurologist and a psychiatrist. So he went through this experience, understanding that between stimulus and response, there's a space. And what he went through was absolutely horrific. But his writings and his teaching post-internment are all about the reality that everything that happens to us and with us and around us is actually neutral. It's our thought that puts the power to that stimulus, that
Right.
drives an emotion, that creates action or inaction, because inaction's an action, that manifests results, good, bad, or ugly. And so between Viktor Frankl's work, my re-exposure to Frankl's work in the happiness curriculum, going through COVID, surviving this horrific incident in Mexico, all of it kind of came together. And this book doesn't just tell my story. It tells stories of many individuals, not all, but many individuals whom I get to call friends, like my friend Sean Swarner, who climbed Mount Everest with one functioning lung, who's been voted one of the 8 most inspirational humans in history because he survived 2 independent cancers before the age of 18 and literally made a decision, a thought that he wasn't going to let cancer take him down. And he's become this internationally known speaker and author and friend of mine to help people understand that, yeah, mind over matter actually works for you in your situation.
So I know, as you said, this isn't just for dentists. Whenever it comes to the dentist and the team member relationship in the practice, what's that one move maybe that you're hoping everybody kind of makes in 2026?
It's one of my favorite coaching questions. The one move is this. You ask yourself the following question: how true is that? So let me explain. You come into a situation, let's be in the doctor's shoes for a moment, and your team member is late. And you think to yourself, gosh darn it, nobody wants to work anymore. How true is that? This woman just wants to, or man just wants to take advantage of me. How true is that? What's another alternative? Because I got news for you. Until you know the facts, both the positive and negative are valid. And there's a lot of research in my book. In fact, I received a testimonial from Sean Akor, who wrote The Happiness Advantage, who's a Harvard-trained PhD. And he calls it a radically hopeful work. He also uses the term well-researched. And I'm like, whoa, that's kind of a nice compliment from a
That
PhD
is.
at Harvard. And so there's a lot of meat to my book. This isn't just fluffy motivation. This is a plan, folks. In every chapter, there are exercises that build on each other to help you make your one move to move past. But I think in the identification of any challenge, the first step is realizing we have a problem or realizing there could be an alternative. And that one question, how true is that, can be a real game changer because it brings us from a judgmental place to a curious place.
I'm going to flash you back to your dental career just
Mhm.
for a second. When did you realize that there's more to being a dentist than just being a clinician?
You know, honestly, I think I always realized it because I got exposed to dentistry at 16 years of age. And Dr. Mendlinger, may he rest in peace, really took me under his wing. In fact, I remember a couple funny instances. I'll just tell you one where he did this on purpose. He was extracting a seriously periodontally involved tooth, or 90+% bone loss. And he goes, Martin, okay, just hold this forceps for a minute. And he knew that just the weight of the forceps would extract the tooth. And it did. And I was like, "Huh." And so it's just a funny anecdote. But I realized that from the very beginning because ironically enough, I worked at this practice, the Hartford Dental Group, that's still around for about 6 years, 6 summers. And the last summer was right around, for those that are old enough, remember the James Acre case in Florida, the HIV case, where they didn't know how it was transmitted. Turned out, unfortunately, it was Dr. Aker doing it purposefully. But that last summer, being a rising senior in undergrad, getting a bio degree, he actually gave me the keys to the car, so to speak. And I created an entire infection control and OSHA program in the practice. Little did I know I'd be teaching later in my career. So I think that experience exposed me to other aspects of dental practice that allowed me to realize at a very young age that it's not just drilling and filling. There's a lot more to dentistry as a practice.
So when I go on to Amazon and I look at your book, one of the first words that jumps out at me is burnout. How prevalent do you feel burnout is right now? And how do we get past it no matter how prevalent it is?
Yeah, it's huge because particularly if you're an owner of a practice, associateship is difficult enough, but if you're an owner of a practice or a partner within a practice, it never stops. And no one has taught us leadership. No one's taught us business acumen. No one's taught us organization. So burnout is huge. ADA statistic a number of years back, only 10% of dentists take any time off.
Hmm.
Now that's a recipe for disaster right then and there. And if you look at the psychological data, that we're 17 times more likely to take our own lives. We're 2.5 times more likely to suffer from panic disorder, anxiety disorder, and depression. I mean, Houston, we got a problem. So burnout, which is a definable condition, is really ever present within dentistry. And part of it is, I have a really good friend, a business partner in Dr. Kyle Stanley, and we actually teach the only in-person mental wellness course that we know of, potentially in the world, certainly in North America. And so Kyle's done a lot of research around burnout. And one of the things that I most identify with is his diversity identification, where he talks about the fact that dentistry is not who we are, it's what we do. And that there's various elements to make up Martin Mendelson or Kyle Stanley. Martin is the son, the spouse, the friend, the amateur chef, the budding writer. There's a lot of elements to me. It's not just dentistry. And I can tell you, when I became disabled through therapy, I was explained to later that that was actual trauma because my identity was ripped out from under me seemingly overnight. And so we have to be very careful not to conjoin our self-worth with our profession, because we are so much more than, quote, just the dentist or just the hygienist or insert role in dentistry there.
So again, the book is called One Move Makes All the Difference: How to Discover Your Power and Transform Your Life. And Dr. Mendelson, I'm looking at it on Amazon, but I know it's in other places as
Yeah.
well. And I'd love just tell people where else they can find it, as well as where they can learn more about you.
Yeah, they can literally find it wherever books are sold. So whether that's your local bookstore, which I would encourage, or Barnes and Noble, or even Walmart, it's listed on all of their websites. All of those websites are linked on my website, which is just my name, martinmendelson.com. So if you're looking to connect with me, there's a form on my website to do so, or you can DM me on LinkedIn, or you can DM me on Instagram, where I'm Doc Martin Empowers on Instagram, whichever is most convenient for you. I try to make myself not hard to find.
He's definitely not. I can promise you that, just in our experience of working together and being colleagues and friends through the Speaking Consulting Network. So, Dr. Mendelson, great to see you as always. And really
Thank you.
appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And all of those links that Dr. Mendelson mentioned, hey, if you're watching this on Dr. Bicuspid, well, it's in the article that's surrounding this. It's easy to find. If you're listening to it, it's in the show notes. Very easy to find as well. Till next time, it's Kevin Henry, Editor-in-Chief for Dr. Bicuspid, signing off. And as always, wishing you nothing but success.